I learned from watching my mom as a kid that anytime you feel overwhelmed by stress, you're going to feel a whole lot better if you just take a deep breath and then start blaming everyone around you. A little over a year ago, I got back from a trip overseas and I was just miserable with jet lag. I was exhausted, I was stressed out, and I was irritable all the time. So I went on something of a blame bender, and I'm about 3 or 4 days into that when I leave a happy hour over on H Street at about 8:30 p.m. Thursday night, and I am aggressively unlocking my bicycle because I am pissed off at a total stranger at the bar because he had a weird laugh. And I'm pretty sure it was intentional. But I start bicycling home, and I'm making my way to Petworth. I'm about 3/4 of the way there, and I'm coming up one of these DC hills that's not steep and yet seems to go on forever. And I'm in my head trying to figure out who you can blame for hills. But I come over the top, and then I start coasting down. I start picking up speed, and something changes. I get a little kick of adrenaline, and underneath my helmet, I can feel the wind blowing through my scalp. And it's like the first I've felt giddy and carefree in probably a week or so. So I just want to hold on to that moment. And I close my eyes for about a second and a half to just embrace a snapshot of that feeling. And when I open my eyes, my brain has slowed to a crawl, and I can't take in what's going on around me. I'm on my back. I'm in a hospital bed in the hallway of an emergency room, and I can't move my head. I have no memory of getting hit by a car or riding in an ambulance, and I have no idea how bad these injuries are. So the first thing I do is try to wiggle my fingers and toes, and everything wiggles. And then I breathe a sigh of relief, but then I wince because it feels like every time I breathe in, someone is just sinking like a fistful of steak knives into my rib cage. My right hip, my right knee feel like they've just been beaten with a crowbar. And so I'm fumbling around nervously trying to find my cell phone to try and see what I look like, and I put on the selfie camera, and it's actually not as bad as I'm expecting. I do have some blood across my face. I've got oxygen tubes in my nose, I got a neck brace on, and I have these 2 enormous yellow foam blocks just strapped around my head, which luckily is the reason I can't move my head. But I take a selfie, then I look at the selfie. I don't like the selfie, so I take a few more. It's kind of the first rule of selfies. Doesn't matter the circumstance. But as I'm doing that, I hear a voice say, "Oh, good, you're awake. This is for you." And a police officer steps into my view and hands me a piece of paper. And before I have time to ask him what the hell happened, he's gone. And before I have time to process the fact that I'm getting ticketed for getting hit by a car, I put that piece of paper in my pocket without looking at it, because there's a guy in a lab coat who's like rushing towards me like the Terminator, and I want to hear what he's got to say. But he gets to me, and he looks down, and he says, "You up for a CAT scan?" As if he and his buddies are going up for CAT scans. They want to know if I want in. He wheels me to the next room and then gives this seemingly auctioneer speed explanation about how a CAT scan works, possibly in an exotic language I don't know. The next thing I understand that he says is, "Do you have any questions?" And I just say, "Do you know what happened to me?" And he says, "Apparently you were in a bike accident." I'm like, "Yeah, I know that much." But apparently neither of us has any more information than that. He wheels me back in into the little space in the hallway, which is like the Skid Row of the hospital. But I'm lying there, and my phone rings. I look down, and it's my friend Josh. And I think, oh, crap, because I'm suddenly remembering that about 20 minutes ago, I sent him one of those photos, but didn't give him any explanation or caption, which is not cool. But I answered the phone, and he's like, "Holy shit, what happened?" Apparently I was in a bike accident. "I'm on my way," and he hangs up, and I think, "Do you know where I am?" But I must have told you, or you told me, somebody knows, somehow you know where I am, and apparently I did, because he gets there pretty quickly. But by the time he gets there, I'm feeling a lot better, because my wits are starting to come back, and thankfully they've removed the neck brace, and he walks over, and one of the first things he does is look at the side of my head, curiously. He says, "Do you have glitter on your ear? Did you get hit by a car at a strip club?" But we pretty quickly deduce that it's silver car paint. It's our first clue. And it's instrumental because it's what jogs the images into my memory. And I can see this gray sedan that just abruptly pulls out of the parking lane without looking. I don't know if they're drinking, I don't know if they're texting, I don't know what it was. And then that car disappears. It's like this low-resolution animated GIF that I can't enhance and I can't stretch out. It just pisses me off so much. My anger for this anonymous stranger is overflowing that target, and I just start going off on everyone I've had to interact with that night. And I say, did I tell you I got ticketed for getting hit by a car tonight? I don't know how much it is. I haven't actually looked at it yet, but I'm sure it's whatever the max is, because I know a police officer's probably got a quota to meet, and if I don't pay it in 20 days, it's going to double, just like on my parking tickets. I take a deep breath, and then I keep going, and I say, and how many people walked by without doing a thing? And not maliciously, but they're on their phones, or they're, just figure someone's called 911, or they're assuming it's frickin' performance art or something. As if to add fuel to the fire at this point, we overhear a couple of the nurses talking. One of them motions to me and says, how drunk do you think that guy is? And the other one says, I think that guy's lit. First nurse comes over and says, I need to give you a breathalyzer test, as if it's to settle a bet. I blow into it, and he looks down the results and says, wow, you're not drunk at all. I mean, you're not sober either, but you're sober enough to drive a metro bus. And immediately I think, that shouldn't be a phrase. But as soon as he walks away, I'm fucking done with people. And I say this whole experience is such a perfect metaphor for life. If you let your guard down for literally 2 seconds, the world also literally will run you over. And almost nobody is going to give a damn. We sit there for another 2 or 3 hours. It's about 2:30 in the morning by the time the doctor comes over, and she says, sorry it took so long, but we've got all your results, and it's all good news. You got some bruised ribs and a concussion, but that is it. You got really lucky. Do you have any questions before we release you? And at this point, I was like, I'm not feeling particularly lucky. I just want to go home. I want to try to get some sleep, and I want to never interact with another goddamn human being so long as I live. But I would also like to know if she knows anything about the accident. So I say to her, does anybody have any more details about the car that hit me? And she says, the car that hit you? That's not our understanding of what happened. Apparently, you fell asleep while riding your bicycle and hit a parked car. And as soon as she says that, I think, oh yeah. And this little memory that had been hiding from me all night suddenly jumps out of closing my jet-lagged eyes, and then this teeny tiny voice a mile away shouting, dude, wake up! And yet, she's not done telling me about what happened that evening. She says, after you tore off somebody's side mirror with some part of your body, you banged your head off the hood and hit the ground, at which point a car going the other way immediately pulled over and called 911. 2 people on a passing bus called 911. 2 pedestrians ran up, one called 911. The other ran up to a fire station and brought back 2 firefighters who blocked off the area until an ambulance got there. With that, even my tiny Grinch heart has grown 3 sizes. And I'm just overwhelmed by just humility, embarrassment, and gratitude to a group of anonymous strangers who surely had better things to do than deal with my stupidity that night. But there's one person I haven't let off the hook just yet. And I take a look at that piece of paper the police officer gave me. And sure enough, it's a ticket for $25 for not paying appropriate attention to my surroundings. Thank you.